Hello everyone, welcome once again to Bat Chat. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Steve Baxi.
Today, Steve and I are doing another commentary podcast on an episode of Batman the Animated Series, and we are to Killer Croc's first appearance,
yes,
Vendetta, and Steve, this was one that I did not remember. I thought I did, and I watched it, and I was like, I'm sure I've seen this when I was a kid, but I did not remember it at all, and I don't know why it didn't stick with me, because I think it's fabulous.
Oh yeah, this is one of my favorites. This is probably in my top 10.
Oh really? Man, I just didn't remember it. And I don't know that it's one of the most memorable as far as stories goes, but this is Batman through and through. Like if I were gonna give someone that had never somehow or rather been under a rock or whatever, the rock that he threw at him, if I threw a rock at him, if somebody was under a rock and they'd never seen anything Batman and they wanted to know what Batman was all about, this is one of those episodes I might give them. Yeah. It is like straight up traditional detective gritty Batman, and it reminds me of a lot of like late 80s, early 90s like Grant comics,
yeah,
or like stuff Brayfogle drew.
Yeah, it's a lot like that, and it's also got kind of a Humphrey Bogart noir thing going every now and then. Like it seems like Killer Croc could almost be a villain that Philip Marlowe goes up against.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, anyway, before we review it, and let's not review it before we watch the thing, but I'm very excited to talk about it. I could not believe how much I enjoyed this one. So if you want to watch it with us, of course, we're going to watch it and talk about it. Get your DVD box set or Amazon Prime, however you want to watch it, and make sure that you're watching the episode Vendetta. That's what we're doing today. And get it to timestamp 0, past all the menus and everything. Mr. Baxi, are you ready?
I'm all set.
All right, everybody, please press play right now.
And this time I'm watching it on the DVD set, so I'm getting the original intro.
Oh, good, yeah. Boy, wouldn't it just freak you out if you put in the DVD and it was the other one and you were in the other intro? How does that happen? It's just Steve Baxi. Only he gets the Superman Batman intro.
You see, Warner Brothers is just trolling me, so every time I go online, they want to make sure that I get that intro to get myself psyched for that movie.
Warner Brothers, stop screwing with Steve's head. Stop it. Stop it!
Although I think it's perfect to have this intro for this episode, because it just speaks so much to the tone we're about to get.
Yeah, that's right. This episode is a perfect blend of really great gritty tone and atmosphere, and also a pretty good detective story.
Yeah,
this is one of the denser episodes. A lot being done in 22 minutes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's better than half the appearances Killer Croc has in the comics. This is a fantastic way to do his origin. It's a fantastic way to do the hard-boiled noir stuff that we haven't gotten.
Look at that title card. That is one of the coolest title cards.
Oh, it is. It's great.
I love the minimalism of it. I love how simple it is. But this show is all about the shadow work and stuff. Yeah. And if you look really closely, you can tell he's in a jail cell.
Yeah.
It sets up everything. That's what it's all about. He got sent to prison and is upset with Bullock for sending him there and wants his revenge.
Yeah, yeah. It's perfect for all of that. And we'll definitely get to the Bullock stuff. Because this is the first time Bullock's really gotten much to do in this show. Right
out the gate, just with Conway. As soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh no, Jerry Conway, the convict Jerry Conway." I think that guy's face, the character model for that guy, immediately sets kind of a tone of this being like horror pulps, because he's drawn like a lot of the kind of creepy, exaggerated looking characters in horror pulps.
Yeah, and we open when it's in the rain, it's a storm. Just right here we see a hand coming out of the water. Like it's definitely got that Shadow-esque feel of it's a horror story first. And I mean the music for this episode even helps that even more. It does a really great job of making sure that it sets the right detective mood, but it also sets some of the creepier moments of the show.
This is one of those rare episodes where Batman gets a little bit of a traditional character arc.
Yeah, he does. Him and Bullock both. They're pretty much dual protagonists for most of this, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. He's not straight up in the background like he has been for some of these things that, again, are kind of reminiscent of horror pulps, where he's just the boogeyman, but is actually the good guy. But he still has that aesthetic,
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, they pulled that off very much, and Batman's definitely got that. They do this in the '80s a lot, where every time you see him and he's trying to figure something out, he's like grinding his teeth, and he looks like he's really mad about it.
Now, with the rain coming down like that, I'm really impressed that Batman was able to find a toothpick and that it didn't get washed away or something. But I think that's really cool, because when he flicks it, you certainly don't think that's going to come back as being a plot point. I mean, like, this is a really tight narrative, right?
Yeah.
Also, though, minor silly quibble, he flicks it, and then, oh wait, is Batman going to come pick it up right now? Is that what it is? Because I was like, he flicks it, and then Batman runs away, and I'm like, when does he get it? Oh, there it is. Okay, there we go. Yeah, okay, well, good job. He did, now, to be fair, though, he did see him flick it, so it's not like he just randomly finds it.
So it was kind of weird. They just waited around for everyone to disappear and then grab up a toothpick.
Yeah. I love all the lightning effects in the scene.
Yeah. I also love that Bullock is very much like almost like 80s cop movies.
Yeah.
He's very much that style of character where he's always complaining with his superiors. He always wants to do things his way, but he gets the job done.
That close-up shot of Batman in pseudo silhouette with the lightning, that ought to be a poster.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that is cool.
This episode just has so many of those moments. We're about to get a Psycho reference because it says Bates and N.
Yeah. I was going to make a joke about that, but then I realized that it's probably actually a reference.
Yeah, they mentioned that, I'm forgetting if this one has a commentary, but I know they mentioned that somewhere in an interview or something like that. That they even wanted to do like a Norman Bates style villain at one point, but they never got around to it because of censorship and such.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, I don't know how you would have gotten away with that.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked in this time period, but I wish they did it.
The only thing this episode is missing for me is Batman with the
flashlight
in his mouth. Yeah. That's the one thing this is missing, and that scene would have been perfect for it.
Oh yeah, this is the kind of Batman that would do that those kinds of things.
Yeah. But this is just a straight up detective story, right?
Yeah, all the way through. There's not much else to it than that. I mean, there's certainly interesting themes and ideas there about like about the idea of vendettas and revenge, and Batman's kind of got the same thing going that Harvey Bullock does and Croc does, and you're paralleling them on that level, but it's on the surface just a straight up detective story, and it's not trying to do anything bombastic or try to get hard to animate things. It's just trying to tell a good story.
Yeah, Batman's motivations are certainly at the forefront of his character. I also think that it's building a little bit on some continuity stuff from earlier in the show. Not that it matters if you haven't seen that stuff, but we know from other episodes that Bullock is a guy that is capable of falling to corruption.
Yeah.
And that he's not the cleanest cop in the world. So if you know that already, Batman has even more of a reason to suspect him as much as he does in this.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And then when it turns out that it's not him, and he's really just trying to be a good cop, it's really cool when you get to the end and they have this kind of subtle unspoken appreciation of each other. And Bullock also has that that kind of standard, oh, don't go in with the mushy stuff. Just stop talking now. Well, I'm not giving you a hug, Batman.
And it's cool that they keep that relationship for most of the show.
Proof. Yeah. This is one of two, I think only two stories, but weird that there's that many even, where somebody is trying to get revenge on Bullock for putting them away, and they're both fantastic. Bullet for Bullock is one of my favorite episodes.
I agree.
And this, I think, is as good now that I have seen it again.
It's been a while since I've seen. Oh, I love that shot of Batman and Lightning.
Oh God, they just keep doing that, and it's different every time, and it's awesome.
And again, I just love that he's always grinding his teeth, and he's always mad about something. But yeah, Bullet for Bullock's episode I haven't seen in a while. I think I might like this one a little bit more. But yeah, they're both fantastic, and I wish the show did more with Bullock, because they definitely got his voice down perfectly.
See, going back through the show, I don't know that my top 10 that I did on my rewind wouldn't be a little bit different once we get finished with this whole show. Admittedly, this was not a show that I went back and watched all of. I thought I knew it well enough to pick my favorite 10. But these days, when I do a top 10, I go back through a show and I watch every episode.
Right.
So they take a lot longer, but I at least can say now that whenever I do these, I watch every episode. Batman smiling here totally works.
It's great. Kevin Conroy
terrifying.
has some of his best dialogue delivery with that scene.
I agree with you. Yeah. Oh, by the way, we should mention Rupert Thorne is working on botany. Gotta have that, right?
Oh, yeah.
You gotta have Rupert Thorne in a greenhouse. But it doesn't come off as corny, you know?
No, it doesn't. It feels very much like 1940s pulp. So everyone's got their gimmick and their name and their identity is associated with in that way. So his name is Thorne, so he'll do gardening things. The guy's name is Spider Conway, so he will be kind of sleazy and have a web of informants together. What do you think of them hiding Croc for most of the episode? Because I think it's actually really effective, even if you've seen it a couple of times.
Yeah, I think it's really effective too. It's cool to put Croc in the background instead of Batman.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I like about it, is that because he's a force that is he's really a force for Batman, right? Like Batman is not a supernatural character. I think this episode is playing that up really hard, that he's a regular guy who's just really good at intimidating people and seeming larger than life, and he goes up against something that almost outmatches him. I love seeing Batman fight things with his wit that are just big brutes.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
And we've got that in this too, because I don't know that people think of Batman. I think people think of Batman in this more as, a wraith or even an urban legend. They don't think, oh, Batman's this like mastermind, this master planner guy. They probably think of Batman more like Killer Croc, right?
Yeah.
And so Killer Croc is closer to what people would think of Batman as. He's just this big monster creature that might jump out and pounce on you.
Yeah, you go back to some of the original comics, and Batman is almost always described by the criminals he's fighting, and he's a weird, crazy, animalistic figure, and it terrifies people, and he's a lot more like Killer Croc than we've gotten in recent years.
It's all about the perception.
Yeah, theatricality and deception.
Yeah, precisely. Because we don't quote that movie enough.
That's the reason it's my favorite Batman movie. Because of lines like that.
And so I love that Killer Croc is kind of something closer to what people see Batman as, but he doesn't have that thing, right?
Yeah.
Where he's not creating a perception. He just is that. I love that Bullock is so big that Croc can pull this off.
Yes, I love that it's a reference to the comics and how when Croc first appeared, he was just a guy in a trench coat hiding out, and we didn't really have an identity for him.
That's great. I didn't know that. Croc here, if you're not watching, is pretending to be Bullock, and he's got this creepy, silhouette face where he's got a blank face. You can't see him because of the shadow. People in pulpish or noirish things like this always get really lucky that the shadows are working for them. They walk in a room and they're like, you can't see what my face looks like because I already know what the lighting is like. But again, it's really effective. I would pay for that action figure.
I would too. It looks really, really good. And now that they're doing animated series figures, I kind of wish they would do stuff like that. The novelty scenes.
This episode is overlooked. I never hear about it. I forgot all about it, and I think one of the reasons that I'm so enthusiastic right now is I feel like I'm watching. Well, I mean, not right now because I watched this earlier in preparation for this. But when I watched this earlier, I felt like I was seeing a wonderful Batman episode for the first time.
Yeah, especially considering how comics have been lately, and there's always lots of events and stuff. It's great to get like just a short 22-minute episode that encapsulates everything we would get in a typical Batman story.
I want to hear Batman say something like, "It must have been a very tiny individual that left this glove behind."
Oh, yeah, that's great. I also love, and we talked a little bit over it, but I love that we get that.
It must have been a leprechaun.
This Batman would totally buy that. I love that we transition from Bullock getting a photo taken to the newspaper, and that's where Batman finds out about it. I think that looks really good, and it definitely speaks back to those kinds of detective stories in those movies.
I also like well, that's got to be disturbing if you're Alfred. Alfred, you're beautiful. I also really like that we're finally humanizing Bullock a little bit.
Yeah.
We've had Bullock in a few episodes, and he's always a little shady. You're never sure where you stand with him. Nobody likes him, and to get that sad, bewildered face that's almost comedic from him in that newspaper with that transition that you were talking about is cool. And then we also get on top of all the detective stuff, some fun Batman gadgetry. I mean, again, it's everything you want in a good solid standalone 22-page Batman comic.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what you get no matter what era of Batman you're reading. It could be Golden Age, Silver Age, or modern, but this is always the kind of stories we get. These are the kind of stories that permeate.
Yeah, but contemporary enough that it's able to be dark and not super goofy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, at least I mean, there's even some like mid-70s in this.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's lots of Dennis O'Neil here. There's lots of there's a little bit of Frank Miller here and there because it is kind of a hard-boiled thing. But it's still a good blend of all that stuff. And I love that you mentioned Alan Grant earlier because he's got this type of style when he writes Batman. He's always an amalgam of all those writers. I love Croc's design.
Now that we're watching this, I appreciate the whole the thing that almost got him of Batman pretending to be Croc more than I ever have. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because we're drawing these cool parallels to them, and when you look at him in the face, he looks like if Batman was a monster.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. I love it.
Oh man, I never thought of that before. That's really cool. Now I've always been a little on the fence about his voice. I think his voice is a little goofy.
Yeah, I think so. It could have stood to be a little bit more gravelly.
Maybe even modulated in post or something to make it to give it a darker tone.
Maybe so.
I don't know. Like there's a lot of Ninja Turtle villains that sound like
his voice gets better in the later episodes. So I don't mind it as much here because I know it gets better. But you're right; it could have stood to be a little bit different, a little bit more menacing.
It sounds like a guy my size trying to do a 300-pound burly guy. That's what it sounds like. It's like if I were to do Killer Croc. I can do Killer Croc. I'm gonna get you, Batman. You and your beautiful butler.
I love the way Croc moves though, because you saw it in the action just a little bit earlier, but like he's moving around on all fours and he's using his arms because they're almost as long as his legs. And he's really animalistic. He's really more of like a monkey than he is a crocodile.
Yeah, but what's great is Batman, at least from the perspective of the criminals that he's chasing, seems as menacing as Croc. Exactly. When he's coming at the camera, and I love that we get it from their perspective a lot. Like he's coming at the camera and he's doing this, underwater with his wings spread, and then anytime he puts on a respirator, it's creepy. And then just Batman coming at you like this. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I like that. He's great.
I'm Batman.
And I think those parallels we're talking about, I think we're drawing a little bit when we said the transition from Croc jumping into the water to Batman's face in the Batcave. I think that's pretty clearly what they wanted to do there.
And when Croc was a wrestler, he wore a cape.
Yeah, there you go.
Come on, that's awesome.
Yes, that is. Killer Croc doesn't have a lot of standout episodes after this. Almost Got Him is good, but it's not really his episode because he's not really technically in it. But this is great. This is one of the best Killer Croc stories you'll get even in the comics. And in the comics, he's got some good ones, and Bullock's have got some good ones. But it's crazy that the idea of paralleling all three of those characters works so well. It seems so counterintuitive, but it makes perfect sense, especially considering Bullock doesn't get a lot of stories where we talk about the heart out of Shelley's pulling and what kind of impact it has on other people.
Well, Bullock is like Batman a little bit outside of the law. He's not supposed to be, but he sometimes kind of worked that way a little bit. But then he's got this hypocrisy of hating Batman because that's what Batman does, and neither of them is good at playing inside the rules. But they both believe in the law, and that's the common ground they find at the end.
Yeah. Or even more so, they believe in justice, but not necessarily how the law defines it or how the law gets it.
That's true. I guess I only said that because that's the line that they give us at the end.
That's true, yeah. I like Bullock being terrified of Croc.
They do say they both believe in the law, yeah.
I think that really works. Although now that you're mentioning it, they could have used a different voice, because the intimidation is not working for me now.
And then, you know what it feels like? The way I do. Yeah. Yeah, I'm somewhere in between Shredder and Zorak. Come Come on, Brack, help me beat up Batman. Oh, okay, okay, Killer Croc.
That manhole cover toss is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and the drop.
Yes.
Is really super pretty too.
Animation's fantastic there.
Subtle little details like Batman putting 2 fingers on his neck to make sure he's alive.
And there's a mark that it went down, and there's a bit of pressure there, and all those little hand-drawn details. It's great.
That's cool. It just seems so realistic. This is why it's so wonderful for a kid show to do stuff like this, because kids pick up on stuff like that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because they're not used to seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, you got just in the second there when he was running, you got his reflection in the water and everything.
And so it makes, and it looks a little black and white because of the lighting, and we talk about that a lot. Yeah. I love the black and white stuff in the show. But the
further down he gets in the sewers, the darker everything gets, and his costume gets more and more gray.
It really legitimizes your kid's fiction.
Yes.
You know, when you're a kid and you're watching something like this, you feel like you feel like you're being a little bit challenged. You feel like you're watching something that's not quite intended for your age group, even though you know that it is. Yeah. And I remember being a kid and being I think I was thoughtful enough that I appreciated not being spoken down to.
Yeah, like this one forces you to get to its level, and that's why I love it. Yeah.
And then there's just something provocative about Batman with red eyes.
Oh yeah, that's great. There's an episode where he goes blind and he has red eyes for most of the episode. I love that.
Oh yeah, that one's pretty cool too. Batman has to feel like what it's like to be Matt Murdock, except without his powers.
Exactly, my 2 favorite superheroes combined in one.
I don't think it's an accident that they contrived a reason for Batman to have red eyes in this, dealing with this. And I don't know if I'm reading too far into this, but I'm really fixated on this notion of Batman as a monster fighting a real monster.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's why stories like Batman versus Dracula work, because there is a legitimate comparison to be made that Batman is a monstrous figure and he's drawing on monstrous themes, and in almost all mythology the bat is a sign of evil, except maybe the Chinese. So the fact that you get that here and you're paralleling it with Killer Croc, it does definitely work. In a lot of ways, it's almost like he's a guided monster, like he's what Bruce Banner talks about with the Hulk, like he's a bullet and you just need someone to fire it in the right direction.
And, you were talking about paralleling all 3 of them. I think, Croc is played as Bullock's kind of nemesis in this episode, and Bullock is seen as a brute like he is, but there's more to him than that. And I think, importantly, Croc has a beef with Bullock, but he really is just a monster. Yeah. And I mean, he's a tragic figure. He's kind of your classic almost Hunchback of Notre Dame type figure.
You're right. He's very Victor Hugo now that you mention that. Yeah. I think part of why, and maybe since in retrospect this makes more sense, but I think part of why I didn't like Feet of Clay as much is because I remember watching this episode right after and thinking Croc was so much more interesting. And I love
which is weird.
Dragging Croc down from up from the sewer. That's a really cool image.
I'm not a big Killer Croc fan. I've never really thought that much of the character. It's just, if you want Batman to be in a fight with a big brute, it's fun. This episode's turning me around a little bit on him. I do feel like he could have been about any big monster character.
Maybe so. There's kind of a shortage of those in the comics, though. So that's why I guess they just went with Croc. I mean, you could do potentially Clayface, but Clayface is not the same thing because he can change his appearance. But other than that, Batman doesn't really fight monsters.
I'm also thinking about like fun, weird comparisons. Like Batman does kind of live like a bat, and Killer Croc lives like a crocodile. And he lives in the sewers. The whole crocodile in the sewer thing. Batman lives in his bat cave. And what's kind of fun about it is neither of them is actually an animal, right? I mean, Croc. I love Batman smiling at Bullock at the end. It's cool that they find that. They find that common ground a little bit. Croc was just born the way he is. I love that there's no explanation. He's just a freak of nature. He has a choice. He doesn't have to be this way, but presumably he's kind of lashing out against society because of the way that society looks at him. And Batman's lashing out because of what society did to him via what it did to his parents. And there's actually an interesting comparison there. When you look at the animal forms that they've taken on and decided to live like.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the animal thing, but Bullock's definitely got the same thing of he looks like kind of like a thug, so he acts kind of like a thug.
So he acts like a thug. That's an excellent And
if people haven't read it, The New 52 Detective Comics, starting with issue 30, is basically Bullock the protagonist, and it's about his beef with Batman. So it's fantastic to read if anyone's curious.
I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to read that.
It's really, really good. It's some of the best Batman comics we've gotten in decades.
Bullock has gotten his popularity back pretty hard in the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, I think so.
He's kind of back to the forefront again. And say whatever you want to about Gotham, one of the things they consistently get right in that show is Bullock.
Yeah, and the actor they picked for him is just absolutely perfect.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Give him his own show.
I agree. Give us a prequel show, whatever, with Bullock. Yeah, that guy is fantastic.
Yeah, of course, a prequel to this
prequel
reimagined show.
Prequel show, yeah.
Yeah, great. Anyway, well, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Steve, I was enamored with this.
I'm glad you liked it as much as you did, because this is a really good episode. This is one of my favorites, so.
It got me. I thought it was just wonderful. Well, folks, let us know what you think in the comments if you saw this episode, and thanks for watching. As always, we'll see you again next week with Fear of Victory.
Yes.
Is the next one.
Robin and Scarecrow story.
Oh, yeah, remember that one. So we'll do that next time. And in the meantime, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Steve Baxi.
Thanks for watching.